Hey guys, it's me, Josh Lloyd, back with another in the Red Rock Season in Review videos. Today we're talking Indiana Pacers, a team whose season was obviously set back by the injury to Paul George in the summer, and it affected not only his season obviously, but that of the whole team, with no one really posting any impressive fantasy numbers, with the exception of George Hill, the only player to end up in the top 100 in per game head-to-head value. We'll start with Hill. He was almost unownable in 2013-14, took on a massive step in 2014-15, taking on or shouldering the load of basically being the offense, rebounding, getting assists, shooting the ball well, hitting threes, getting steals, and providing significant value after he came back from his injury. Don't get too sucked into him for next season though, because I think he's going to fall somewhere back, not quite the same as 2013-14, but definitely not as good as 2014-15 with Paul George back. So he's going to take a slide. I think somewhere to around 80 is where you'd be targeting him, not that top 50 sort of range where he gave us that value in the second half of the season. They're still crying out for a shooter, no one really there, but Paul George is obviously the big name we really need to talk about. He only played 6 games, 15 minutes a game, but his per minute numbers were really good, almost 9 points a game, and assuming he is back to full health, which is a big assumption, he is going to be back to not quite his best, but pretty good. Where do you take him in drafts? I think that the second round is where he's going to go. I don't think you're going to be able to get him in the third round. I would be hesitant to take him at the top of the second round. I think the end of the second round is the right spot, but if you really want to get your hands on him, you might have to go early, around pick 12, 13, 14, around that sort of area to get your hands on Paul George. The problem with this leg injury is that even though he was back, he was playing, it takes time for players to get back to their best. Now, he might be back to his best at the start of next season. I expect some rustiness still. I expect some poor shooting and not quite the same guy. It's very conceivable he finishes inside the top 15, but I would be a bit hesitant in drafting him inside the top 15. A guy who disappointed this season was David West. He had more offensive responsibility placed on him. He didn't live up to it. He played less than 30 minutes a game, but he suffered a pretty bad sprained ankle at the start of the season, and I'm convinced that that is something that plays a big part in players throughout the rest of the season. They come back too early, and it's never right. I think that West is going to have an improved season. He's on the last year of a contract. Paul George will be there, helping to space things out, give him some more room to work, and I think that David West can put himself back into top 100 consideration. Roy Hibbert, on the other hand, only played 25 minutes a game this season. Unfortunately, that's probably going to be all he gets next season, if not less. We've heard Larry Bird come out and say that Hibbert is going to likely be put into a bench role as they change their offensive structure and go faster, and that's not something that suits him. He's a guy who's a great free throw percentage shooter as a big guy. He can get you good block numbers, but not a lot else. I don't like him to put up any numbers similar to what we've seen in the last couple of seasons. I think it gets worse, and it hasn't been good the last 2 years. So Dynasty leagues, I'm not targeting him thinking there's a bounce back. I'm probably not drafting him until the last couple of rounds in standard leagues. He had just 10 and 7 this year with a bit less than 2 blocks a game, and not a good field goal percentage. It's not a good mix for a guy who's a center. I think there are much better options out there than Roy Hibbert, and I think that you'll find it very hard to justify picking him inside the top 100. Not real many dynasty sleepers for this team. Be interesting to see what they do at pick 11 in the draft. I think they take a big man who could potentially shoot. Damian Rudez is someone who I'm a little bit intrigued with for deep leagues if they want 3-pointers. He averaged 1-3 a game this year in the 60-odd games that he played as a rookie. He doesn't do a huge amount else, but he hit those threes at 40%, which is really impressive for a player in his first year in the NBA. If you want to hear more of my talk on the Indiana Pacers or any of my podcasts, subscribe to it on iTunes. You'll find the link below, or you can just search iTunes for Fantasy Basketball or Red Rock Fantasy Basketball, and it is there. Subscribe to this channel and follow me on all the social media links, which you'll see coming up soon. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. See ya.